In Godzilla's first ever on-screen appearance, he raises his head from behind a mountain, roaring loudly at the onlookers on Odo Island. The initial idea was for Godzilla to reveal himself while he was eating a cow, spilling gushes of blood as he chomped down on the animal. The cow model used for the scene was only a static model, as in a prop that was entirely motionless, and that's exactly how it looked on screen. Taking notice of this, special effects director Eiji Tsuburaya objected to the look of the scene, deeming it unusable. The sequence was reshot into what we now have as Godzilla's debut entrance. Any footage of the original cow scene was ordered to be destroyed. Outside only a few surviving shots taken on the set during filming, it's unlikely this deleted scene will ever see the light of day. "1964 saw the release of Godzilla's fourth and fifth film entry, Mothra vs. Godzilla and Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Mothra vs. Godzilla was supposed to be Toho's only Godzilla movie for the year, but due to the delay of the Akira Kurosawa film, Redbeard, Ghidorah had to be rushed out to fill in the schedule gap, just 8 months after the release of Mothra vs. Godzilla. This was the first time two Godzilla movies were released in the same year, a rather fitting tribute for the year that marked Godzilla's 10th anniversary, plus his shift into anti-hero territory. In 1964, after being influenced by the giant monster craze instigated by Toho, the executives at Daiei decided to create a kaiju eiga of their own. The movie was to be called Giant Horde Beast Nezura. The plot would have focused on an army of mutant killer rats that respawned after ingesting a high-calorie nutrient that causes them to grow 2 meters long. A mammoth mutant rat would also appear. The mutant rat horde would run amok across Tokyo, devouring people and animals alike. Eventually, the vermin would turn on themselves, eating every single one of each other, with the threat literally eliminating itself. The name Nezura derives from Nezumi, the Japanese word for rat, and Ra, a suffix commonly used at the end of kaiju names. To create the effects, real rats were to be placed on miniaturized city sets. Additional rat props were created for close-up shots of the rats attacking people. Since domesticated rats didn't look vicious enough, actual sewer rats were collected and used for the film. This particular choice from the staff ultimately culminated into the movie's downfall. The studio was infested with fleas, the neighboring town caused worry about the production, among other issues. After shooting only 20 minutes of footage, the production was ultimately shut down. All that remains of the film are a few publicity stills and some behind-the-scenes images of the rats on the miniature sets, among other images. Unwilling to give up on the giant monster influence, Daiei still set out to make a monster movie of their own. In 1965, their dream came to fruition with Gamera, the giant monster. To the surprise of much of the staff, the movie was successful enough to grow into its own franchise, becoming the biggest rival to Toho's Godzilla. King Caesar's appearance is based on a mythical animal from Okinawan mythology known as a shisa, a creature resembling a cross between a lion and a dog. Its primary purpose is to keep evil spirits out of one's home, while simultaneously keeping good spirits inside one's home. In Japan, his name is actually King Shisa, after the animal he's based on. However, since much of East Asian culture was unknown to people in Western territories at the time, the English translators for Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla assumed Shisa was the Japanese pronunciation for Caesar. Thus, in the original English dub for Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, the monster's name became King Caesar, occasionally being pronounced Caesar to match the actor's mouth movements.
You know what it is?
Probably. The guardian of the Azumis. He's called King Caesar.
King Caesar?
They freed King Caesar.
Mechagodzilla. Destroy King Caesar while he's sleeping.
The monster's name was King Caesar.
For his 30th anniversary film, Godzilla's height was increased from 50 meters to 80 meters. Throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s, Godzilla towered over almost every building in Japan, as there were very few structures larger than him at the time. During Godzilla's 9-year hiatus following 1975's terror of Mechagodzilla, Japan experienced an economic boom that led to the creation of buildings large enough to be skyscrapers. Fearing Godzilla would look puny in comparison to these structures, Toho sought to increase Godzilla's size to remedy this issue. Since you can't make your actor bigger, the model sets had to be built smaller. One trait that makes Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla stand out is that it features 3 different varieties of Godzilla: Godzilla himself, Little Godzilla, and Space Godzilla. However, an early draft of the script called for the return of Mechagodzilla, rebuilt after his destruction at the end of the previous entry. Stories vary why he was cut from the film. Either director Kensho Yamashita decided 4 Godzillas would have been too much for one movie, Godzilla and Mechagodzilla would have seemed too overpowering against one monster, budget constraints, or it was done for marketing purposes, so Toho could put another monster on the toy shelves, albeit a mechanical one. Whatever the reason, Mechagodzilla was ultimately replaced by Mogira, his first time appearing in a new film since 1957's The Mysterians. As was the case with several other Showa monsters featured in Godzilla Final Wars, particularly ones that were fan favorites of director Ryuhei Kitamura, King Caesar was brought back in celebration of Godzilla's 50th anniversary. While his recreated design bears a rather faithful resemblance to his 1974 counterpart, a rather drastic change to the kaiju's personality was witnessed in his very first scene, due to his mind being manipulated by the Exilians. In 1974, King Caesar was known as the Guardian of Okinawa, a special honor to the mythos of the mythical animal he's based on. 30 years later, now under alien mind control, instead of protecting Okinawa, he's now destroying it. While most sci-fi fans are aware of Bryan Cranston's role as Joe Brody in Godzilla 2014 and Zordon in Saban's Power Rangers, this was far from his first work in tokusatsu. In 1993, Mr. Cranston provided the voice for 2 monsters in the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series, the Snizzard in the episode Foul Play in the Sky, and Twin Man in the episode A Bad Reflection on You.
Your weapons are no match for me. Now you shall taste my firepower. Farewell, power brats. You're finished. Mirrors, mirrors all around. Smash the Rangers to the ground.
You must train your team to stop Rita before she has the strength to find the crystal.
My wife died here! Something killed my wife! And I have a right to know!
Scar King wasn't the only enemy Godzilla and Kong were forced to contend with in the deepest parts of Hollow Earth. Aside from his army of primitive, savage apes, all prepared to follow his every command, the biggest threat of all was Scar King's enforcer and trump card, Shimo, an ancient reptilian quadruped that's said to be the oldest of the Titans and was responsible for creating the first ever Ice Age. Shimo's trademark ability is the Frostbite Blast, a powerful, concentrated beam of ice that instantly freezes anything upon contact. Her ice traits are rather fitting for a monster of her design. For one, her ice beam is almost like a parallel to Godzilla's radioactive heat ray, and two, her name, Shimo, just so happens to be the Japanese word for frost. And that's all the trivia I have for this video. In case you haven't realized it yet, the theme of this video was celebrating 70 years of Godzilla. After covering the deleted cow scene from the OG movie, the following segments covered one or more monster movies that were all released during a decade anniversary year for Godzilla. I thought this would be a special way to close out the year representing Godzilla's 7th decade. And if you're wondering why I chose to use AI images for this video, it was sort of a last-minute idea I came up with while I was editing, something I wanted to experiment with just for the heck of it. I wanted these images to be made for real by my friend at Jaro Graphics, the artist who created my channel icon. Unfortunately, she was too busy with things outside the internet world to lend me a hand. So I went with YouTube AI for a change, for no other reason except just to do something different and to see how it would turn out. But what do you guys think about it? Do you like this idea? Or should I just leave YouTube AI in the dust for the time being? I'd love to hear your thoughts about it either way. Anyway, thanks so much for watching my latest video. Remember to like the video, comment below, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, please. And especially don't forget to ding the bell icon to keep you updated on future uploads as soon as they're posted. Thank you all for helping me have such a fun year while developing new content to explore. Thank you all for helping my channel reach over 60,000 subscribers, a major milestone for all of us here. And I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Please take care of yourselves as we enter 2025.